Radio check, anybody copy? Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Kaniklen, and this is a very special live podcast episode of Coffee and Clock that was done in collaboration with the AV Club at the Anchorage Museum on October 25th, 2019, during a series of events called Extracurricular, hosted by the AV Club at the Anchorage Museum. So although this episode is not live now, it was recorded live at the time. It's an episode focused on how museums and media influence the Native narrative, with special guests Jackie Igluguk Lambert, Melissa Shaganoff, and my sister Patuk Glenn. I hope you all enjoy it. We'll just get right into it. Okay, should we go live? We're going live in 3, 2, 1, go. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Joanne. Hi, you made it. My youngest sister, Joanne, everyone. Hi, everybody. Parla Rifsi, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I know everyone's super busy. Happy Friday. This is a very special episode of Coffee and Clock. We are live. This is my very first in any time, since time immemorial, I want to say, of a live Coffee and Clock episode. I am Alice Kaniklan, Uvunga Kanik. I am the host and producer, creator of Coffee and Clock. If this is your first time listening in to Coffee and Clock, it is a podcast to celebrate and explore contemporary Native life in urban Alaska. The mission of Coffee and Clock is just to provide accurate and authentic Alaska Native representation in media, specifically podcast media. So that's a little bit about Coffee and Clock. Our speakers today for this episode are Jackie Igluguk Lambert. Applause. Melissa Shaganoff. And my sister Patuk Glenn. Got a little bit of nepotism going on over here. Hard to get away, though, in Alaska. If it's okay with all of you guys, too, I'd like to go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves as well, just to hear your voice and to let you know that you're invited into this space. You're welcome to participate and ask questions. But first, I'd like to introduce the speakers. So have you guys introduce yourselves first.
Yay! Alice, it's your first live show. This is exciting. Last year, she interviewed me in August. I think the episode came out in November. That was the opposite of a live show, so it's exciting to be here. I think this panel looks really exciting, and I'm excited to hear what everybody has to say, specifically on how museums and the media has a role in Native narrative, especially right now as media is growing into something completely different. Anyways, Uvunga Iki Len. I'm actually the atik of Alice's mom, Arlene. We're both Iki Len, but I'm also Igluguk. I have 2 Inupiaq names. I'm Jackie Lambert from Kotzebue, Alaska. I grew up there performing at the Nana Museum of the Arctic. It was a museum that was open, I think, from the early 70s until I was about 12 years old, and they ended up selling it to the Park Service. And so from there, I kind of went into the media, and so I'm really excited about this conversation that we're going to be having. I am the editor and designer, creator of the Kadigi Zine, which is a self-publication that comes out quarterly, and I'm working on my 10th and last one until I rebrand into a new Native Time Quarterly, something that's in partnership with Alice. So thank you for having me on the show. You have one.
Willie Jan and Serota, Melissa Shagnon, Siset Atlan, Edishio Koikara Atlan, Ait in Ana Hayak Sinsiaden, artist as curator Kogashna, Chinan Kotan was at Atlan. It's good to see all of you here today. I want to, recognize the Danaina Kotana, on whose land that we are hosting this podcast. and whose land the Anchorage Museum is situated upon. I want to recognize their past and present stewardship of this place, and also recognize that indigenous knowledges and belief systems are the only way that we can continue in Alaska, and we need to return to those. So I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Alice, Chanan, for asking me to be on your panel. I think what you're doing is just really amazing. It's so important for us to have a voice, and also for us to have a say on what the future of Alaska looks like. And I think that media like this is shaping it. And so I just really appreciate being here today. So Chanan.
Thank you. Melissa was also on episode 5, Art and Cultural Appropriation, and Jackie was on episode 4. Patuk might be on a future episode. Oh, she's on one right now.
I was just going to say I haven't been on an episode yet. So anyways, my name is Patuk Glenn. I work as a project manager for the Arctic Slope Regional Corporation, and what I've been lucky enough to be able to do is create culture documentaries of our Inupiaq people from across our region. And we mostly create them for ourselves to share with one another, because even from village to village, they may not know how Nuoxit lives in Wainwright or how Point Hope lives in Nutkasuk. So we create those to celebrate our people and share the stories of our people and have our culture documented in that point in time. I work in community economic development, so cultural documentaries is just one facet of what I do. I previously worked as a museum curator at the Inupiat Heritage Center for 6 years, and so I do realize how important it is for us as Native people to share our own stories rather than the traditional museum where you have a curator that goes and they study people like it's an anthropological thing, and I study the Inuit people. Oh, okay, I am the Inuit people, right? But I'm really excited to be here. I think this is a worthwhile cause, and I like to think that I had a little bit something to do with Alice getting in media. Maybe not. Back in the 90s, I've just been waiting to tell this story. I hope I don't embarrass you. Well, actually, it doesn't matter, right? But back in the 90s, I realized that you turn the TV on, you don't see somebody like you. You don't hear your stories. It's MTV, right? VH1, the news, CNN. We're not on any of that. And so in the 90s, I had my mom's big VHS tape recorder, and I talked my sister and my little cousin Tennessee to be actors in my show. And what I created was like an Inupiaq Michael Jackson and an Inupiaq nun and all these different characters, and they were trying to sell a book. And Alice did excellent. I put makeup on her and everything. I'm like, okay, this is what you're going to say. And she did really good. And then I'm looking at her, I'm like, man, you kind of look like a Dada Abel. Anyways, it went really well. I was so proud to show my mom and dad. Unfortunately, with those old VHS tapes, you can record over them, and somehow the tape got lost or trashed or I don't know what. But so I like to think that I had something to do with her getting into media. Maybe not, but that was fun just the same. I'm happy to be here. Okay, Mike, back to you.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to quickly introduce themselves too, just to see who's all here too. Start with my mom.
Ariga, proud mom of Alice and Patuk on the panel. Also mother of Roberta and Joanne.
I'm Alice. I'm Patuk's sister. Yeah. Joanne.
Hi, my name is Anna Stenkwitz, from Barrow.
My name is Veronica Jones, and this is my auntie, also Aiken Koyan. Hi, Greta Shirk, and I am a listener and fangirl.
And my auntie.
Alice K. Glenn, grandma to Alice Q. Glenn.
Hi, I'm Roberta Glenn. I'm Alice and Patuk's sister.
I'm Chaitanya Sunil Burade, Wanga Iglak, husband to Roberta Joturak Glenn and friend of many.
Here's where it all gets bigger. I'm Richard Glenn, son of Alice K. and father of Alice Q. Glenn, as well as Patuk, Roberta, and Joanne Glenn.
My name is Ronnie Villon from Barrow, good friends with Alice.
Hello, my name is Will Bean. I was on one of Alice's episodes, LGBTQ in the Native community.
I'm Amos Stankwitz, Alice's boyfriend.
And I'm Rebecca Gueco Villon, Alice's bestie.
Yay, I'm so glad everyone got to introduce themselves. Thank you guys for being here. I really, really appreciate it. I was a little nervous about having a live episode, but I feel like I just know everyone here, and we're just hanging out in my living room, and all we need is some clock, and it'll be like we're back at home. So I wanted to introduce this episode. I thought it was very fitting that we had a topic on museums and media, because that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're in a museum, and we are using media to convey this podcast episode. So I actually got the idea from Patuk, so yes, she does influence a lot of the things that I do in my life. But the main guiding question and the main focus that we have here today in the short time that we do have is what role do museums and media play on the Native narrative? And that's a loaded question. We can, spend a whole hour just on museums, and we can spend a whole hour just on media. And we can even, divide those into smaller things too. But I kind of wanted to just have a big question and an underlying goal, and to try to answer that question. And if there are ways that we'd like to influence our native narrative, or how we can change it, then maybe we can get some of those started here today. So I think the first question right now that I have for our speakers, and also listeners in cyber world, you're also welcome to submit questions as they come up. And guests here today, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll bring the mic to you if you want to ask a question. But the first question that I have is, what is the role of a museum? What is the purpose of a museum? And what is the purpose and the role of media?
I feel like this question and this topic is like a lot of where my identity actually comes from. So it feels big, but I feel like I was prepared for some reason over the past 27 years to be in this moment right now. Like I mentioned in my introduction, I grew up dancing at the Nana Museum of the Arctic. From my experience, I was a little kid who went to the museum down the street from my house every day in the summertime. Our first show was at 3 o'clock, and our second show was at 6, and that was every single day, even on Sundays. Tourists came in on the Alaska Airlines flight. They went through, they had 3 flights during the day. They came through in the morning on the Alaska Airlines flight to Kotzebue, and then they spent the day there. We had a show and a whole thing for them. It ranged from showing them different like parkas and bones, and just like a culture camp experience, whatever, at the beach, telling them about our things. And then we had a diorama where it had all the animals and taxidermy around in the museum, and there was a stage there, and they ended up playing a short film documentary that kind of just dove more into the story of who we are and where we came from. And through that, we acted out as kids. We acted out a couple stories. One was about a mouse. One was about the eagle mother who came to teach us how to dance, and that eventually turned into us all going out as a dance group, and we'd go out there and dance. And then after that, we'd do the Nulligatuk, we'd do the blanket toss. So it was like a very intimate show and it's something that I grew up, like my earliest memories are there. I think I was probably about 4 or 5 when I started going there, and there was a big community in Kotzebue, and that's the Northern Lights Dancers. That was where they had sprouted from. So Nana invested into this program and this museum in the 70s, shortly after ANCSA. So I grew up there, and my earliest memories were there. I was about 12. I used to want to work there because people were getting paid to be ambassadors of our culture.